Welcome to Life Sketches, a podcast by Chico, California Steak. I'm Melanie McLaughlin, and today we're visiting with Alejandra Thomas. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks
I
for
hear
having me.
you drove all the way from Idaho to be with us today. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So, Alejandra, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, where you grew up?
So I grew up in a small town called Willows, like 45 minutes from here. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and it's 3 boys, 3 girls, even split. We had all kinds of animals growing up. We did road trips a lot. We hung out. We're pretty good. I would say we're pretty good friends as a family. Pretty good. We went to BYU, Idaho for school, and then I went on a mission to Washington, Kennewick, and I loved every minute of it. And then I just got back June of 2022, and then went back to school, and I'm getting married on Friday, actually. So
that's a lot of stuff going on in this week. So I bet you really drove out for your wedding and not just for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for making time for us.
Of course.
Okay, so you were born in Willows, California.
Yeah.
Had your parents always lived there?
No. So my parents grew up in like the Sacramento area, and my dad's work brought them there. He was going to school out at Chico State, and he was doing an internship in Willows, and they just liked him so much they kept him, and so that's where I grew up.
So he graduated from Chico State,
Yeah.
settled in Willows, and was he married to your mom by then? Okay, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
They started out their life together there, and they're still there, right?
Yeah.
In Willows.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all there.
Okay. So I want to know first a little bit about, you're the oldest of 6 kids. So how much older are you than your youngest sibling?
So the youngest is 11, so there's 11 years between us.
Okay. And so how did you manage to stay close to siblings that are so much younger than you?
I don't know. My family always made sure that we had time together as a family and made it a priority. So that way, anytime we did anything, it was all of us included in it. And
so all of your memories include even the youngest kids when you were doing stuff.
Yeah.
And you said that you did road trips with your family. Can you tell us a little bit about
The road trips?
the road trips? Yeah.
I love the road trips. We would go to San Diego every year because my dad had a work conference in San Diego, but then I have a great-grandma also in San Diego, and so it was like a 2-for-1 kind of deal. And we would do that every year in July. And then there was one year it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and we went from San Diego through Arizona, up to Colorado, over to Utah, Nevada. It was a really, really long road trip, but it was a ton of fun. I really liked it.
And that is a really long road trip. San Diego is pretty long in and of itself. Would you do that one in one day?
Yeah, we
San
would do
Diego.
all of
And
it.
so do you remember how many days you were in the car on this longer one?
I do not. Can't remember how old I was. I was little, though.
Okay.
Younger. I don't remember.
Okay. And what kinds of things did you do to take up all the time in the car while your mom or dad were driving?
Yeah. My mom would get us like education books. And so that way we're still learning while we're off school. And we would do music, audiobooks a lot is what we would do too. And we would all just sit there, and it was always fun because then we'd stop it and like either rant about a character or stuff like that. But that's what was like our highlights of the trips.
What was one of your favorite audiobooks that you would listen to?
The tradition in our family is Harry Potter. And so the tradition in my family is that my dad reads us the Harry Potter series to us every time someone turns 8. And so if he can't read it to us, we do the audiobook in the car. And he does a really good job at it. It was always super fun.
So did you, I listened to Harry Potter audiobooks quite a bit myself. Jim Dale, I think, is the one that does those.
Thanks.
So did your dad do as good of a job as Jim Dale? on reading the audiobooks?
He didn't do character voices, but I think he did a pretty good job. I'm a little biased because it's my dad, but he did a really good job. He always made sure, like, he'd come home after, like, really long days and stuff, and he'd be like, you guys want to read Harry Potter together? And we're like, yes! And so we'd all get our, like, pillows and blankets and lay on the floor while he read to us.
That's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so as the oldest, did you start over with each book every time someone turned 8?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'd finish the series before someone turned 8, and then they would restart every year.
And then start again.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. I love
so
that
fun.
tradition.
It was a really fun tradition.
Yeah, that's good. You said that you had animals growing up. Did you interact with the animals very much? And what kind did you have?
We had dogs and chickens growing up. I didn't interact a whole lot with the chickens because we got the chickens after, like, just before I went to school, and then I left. But we have a dog, and we absolutely love her, and we all work together to take care of her.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so you went to BYU, Idaho. You are still going to BYU, Idaho, actually, right? What are you studying?
I'm a health psychology major right now. And so if you don't know what that is, it's you work a lot in, like, the hospitals, medical care situations to psychoanalyze patients to make sure that they are mentally okay in their different situations. You can also work in rehabilitation centers, specifically with the brain, to help repattern people's brain waves, and so they can still be functional on a certain level.
Okay, so more with the mental health side, but that sounds really fascinating.
It's super fun. I love learning about it.
And how much longer do you have to go?
I have 2 more years.
2 more years. And so your timing of going to college would have coincided with COVID,
Yeah.
right? So how did that affect you in your college life? Like, did you have any regular college space before COVID happened, or?
I had about 2.5 months of normal college before COVID happened. It was my first semester, actually, when COVID happened, and it was really hard when COVID happened because they had us all schedule as if we were going to go in person in the spring semester, and we never ended up going. And so all my classes that I was expecting to be in person for, because it would have been just way easier to learn in person, I couldn't, and so it was all online, so it was way harder to do. But I felt like, for me, that was also the most fun I've had ever, because everybody's schedules were just way more flexible. And so all my friends and I, we would just go out and do things all the time during the summer. But sometimes we'd all get together and just do homework and just be in someone's living room eating, like, food and just doing homework.
So here in California, we had to do like a 6-foot social distancing and wear masks every time that we went out. What was it like in Idaho?
It wasn't. The school did stuff to, like, try to discourage gatherings, but the only time people really wore masks is when they went in the store. And so everyone was always at someone's apartment. We're all hanging out. If someone was sick, they quarantined themselves just in case, and so we all just kind of looked out for each other.
Nice. So you still felt like you could get together with people you were close to. Okay. What kinds of things did you guys go do?
We did game nights a whole lot. Sunday night was our game night, and sometimes we just have random game nights in there. We would do games in the park at night until like 2 a.m. That was so fun. We'd also do bridge jumping. And so there's several bridges out towards, like, the St. Anthony area of Idaho, and we'd just go jump off bridges. It was so much fun.
And how tall were the bridges?
Depending on when you were standing on the bridge. So it was like 20 to 40 feet between there.
And which height did you jump off of?
I did both.
You did both of them? How many times?
We went a lot. I'm trying to think. Picture-wise, I would say like 6 different times that we've been jumping.
So, like, once you hit the 40-foot jump, it didn't scare you. You, like, went back again and again and again. Okay.
We did the 20-foot one first, and it's kind of, like, nerve-wracking because you expect to hit the water at a certain point, but you just keep falling, and then your brain's like, this is not okay.
And then it was.
Yeah.
So you did it again. Okay. Did you do anything that adventurous before college?
I actually was kind of a recluse before college. I kind of just stayed to myself and in my own bubble. And when I went to college, I was like, nobody knows who I am. I can be whoever the heck I want, and everyone would just assume that it's me. And so I made it a goal to be way more outgoing, way more involved in other things, to put myself out there and break my own shell that I had created for myself. And it worked. It was great. I had so much fun doing it.
Can I ask you what, can you think of one thing that you did to kind of promote this new outgoing nature in yourself?
I think the biggest help was my roommate at the time, because when I got there, she was like, oh my gosh, hey. And she immediately showed me everything around. She's like, if you have anything, just let me know. And she was just on top of it. And she was super outgoing. And I was like, okay, someone to help me in the right direction. And so she helped kind of guide me. She didn't know she was doing any of it because she also thought I was super outgoing and loud. And I was like, I'm not that person. So I just used her as an example to help that.
Yeah, modeled after what she did.
Yeah.
Do you still interact with her?
Yeah. She was my roommate before I got engaged, and then she's currently my sister's roommate right now.
Oh, so, fun. Yeah. That's really fun. Is your sister outgoing like you are now, or is she learning to be outgoing?
Oh, she's always been outgoing.
Okay. So those two will get along great.
Yeah.
Good. That's really fun. And then at some point in your college education, you decided to interrupt it to go serve a mission. Will you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. I wanted to serve a mission almost my whole life. And I say almost because there's periods of time where I was like, maybe not. And I remember thinking, like, 21 is a big commitment to wait that long. And I was like, I don't know if I can wait that long. And it's like, we'll just see what happens. And then I remember when they dropped the age, and I got so excited because I was like, yes, I can go do it, and it'll be perfectly fine. And then high school happened, and it just got thrown on the back burner. And I was like, well, if I have time, I'll think about it. Well, it was like, I was really career focused at this point. And I was like, yeah, if I have time, I can do it. And I remember during COVID, I was kind of in a rough spot. I had a couple of things happening at home, and I didn't like being stuck in an apartment. And so it was taking like a toll on me. And I remember walking out, and my roommate had just started her mission papers. And she was so happy doing it. And she was so excited. She's like, come here, let me show you all these things that we can do. And I was like, I want to be that happy doing something. And so I started thinking about it. And I was like, okay, I should probably get a little more serious about thinking when. I was like, do I wait? Do I go right now? Do I wait a little bit longer? Wait till COVID has like filtered out? Or do I wait to get my associates and then go out? And so that was like my biggest thing. And I've been praying about it, and I felt nothing. I was like, okay. And then I remember it was the randomest thing. It's like during a Criminal Minds episode, I was sitting on the floor next to the couch watching with my roommates. And the thought was like, you need to leave, put your availability date at December 5th. And I was like, I haven't even started my papers yet. I was like, okay. I was like, we can work with that. Like, I'd have time to come home and work after the semester ended. And I was like, yeah, that could work. And then 2 days later, I was reading my scriptures, and then the Spirit was like, you need to do this. It's not a you should, you need to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And I texted my mom, and she's like, what happened? Because the last thing she knew was like, I wasn't going to go. And so she's like, so you're leaving December 5th? And I was like, that's when I want to. And so, and the whole process, it took way longer than I wanted to. But that was on my mission. I found out why. And there's a certain people you meet at certain times, and the Lord's timings and everything, as frustrating as it may be in the moment, is all there. But when I got on my mission, I was so happy and so excited. And one of the cool things we learned on my mission was that your why changes throughout your mission. And so for me, my why went from I want to be happy to I just need to be out to I can do this to I love teaching the gospel. This is so much fun. And watching people change their lives for this gospel was my motivator and my why at that moment.
I like that you noticed like just a shift in your purpose and reason. And so you were in Washington. Is there anything you want to share with us about Washington?
There's not trees on the eastern side of Washington. The people there are amazing. I loved every part of it. It's kind of like a mini Provo because there's so many members in the area. But Mission was actually kind of small. But I don't know what there was about that area, but there's something about that area that was just so powerful. And everyone there was just so kind and so considerate. And you always get those nasty people. Every missionary runs into them. You're all going to have those moments. But for the most part, everyone was just so kind and willing to be helpful no matter what was going on.
And as a sister missionary, did you stay in one location for several months, or did you move more frequently?
I stayed in, for me, some sisters moved a lot. For me, I stayed in one area for a long period of time. The longest was 4 transfers, so that'd be 6 months. And so
you got to know members really well.
It was really fun.
So with your mission, was there anything especially difficult or that you found to be difficult as a missionary?
Sometimes I was what my mission president would call a special assignment missionary, as in there would be some companions where people would have a harder time with. And so I was to be with them, to help them and encourage them to do it. And there's a couple of times where I'm like, President, I can't do this anymore. I need out. I need a break. But those are some of my most favorite companions now. Looking back, I'm like, I love those companions. They were so fun, and we keep in touch all the time.
What do you think is something you learned from that experience of, what did you call it, a special assignment?
Yeah.
Being a special assignment companion. What's something you learned from that?
I learned a whole lot about patience and trusting Heavenly Father, because there was one companion that some people were like, they're an issue. They have a few things. And I was like, okay, how do I work with those few things? And I remember before I even got her, the transfer happened, I was praying, Heavenly Father, I wanted to help her. I just don't know how to help her. You know how to help her best. What do I do? And he's like, just leave it and I will take care of it. And I was like, okay. And so I did my best to try to be an example. And eventually she got better and better. And I love her now. She's my favorite companion, actually.
So what do you think created that shift of feeling like she was difficult or challenging at first, like a challenging relationship, moving to someone that you just love and enjoy, have good memories with?
I think part of it was the time spent with her. Because when you're with a missionary, your companion, you're there 24/7. You never leave each other's side unless you're on an exchange and you switch companions for the day. You are always with them. And everyone said that about her. And when I got her, I was like, she's actually not that bad. I really like her. And I was like, she's great. And then I could see what people were talking about. And I was like, okay, we can work with that. We just navigate it. We'll just work with it. And so I just addressed it when I needed to, and then kind of stepped back and let Heavenly Father do what he needed to do. And yeah.
So can you think of a highlight? I'm feeling like the difficulty that you experienced in some of those assignments actually became the highlight of your mission. Is there another highlight from your mission that you think of?
There's a couple I can think of. There's a couple times, in your and the purpose of a missionary, the first phrase is, the purpose of a missionary is to help invite others to come unto Christ. And our mission president was like, that is the purpose. He's like, baptism is important, but to come unto Christ. And it reminded me of I think it's Elder Oaks talk, where he was saying everyone just needs to have a church. Everyone needs to have a religion and to go to. And so we would knock on doors a couple of times, and we'd talk to people, and they would just be out of touch with their church, but they had the missionaries in contact with them before. And then one time we knocked a lady, and she was telling us she used to do Bible studies, and we're like, well, why don't you start those back up? Like, that sounds like so cool. And she's like, maybe I will. And then like a month later, we totally forgot we like had that contact with her, and she texted us. She's like, I've started my Bible studies up again, and I love it. Thank you so much for telling me to do so. And we're like, yes, we love it. And so it's just like some of those little things like that where you help someone just move a couple steps forward. They may have not gotten the whole 9 yards, but it was just those little moments where you're just like, oh, it feels good to be a missionary, man. It's just so good.
Have you been back since?
I did.
You got to go back.
I had taught got sealed in the temple, and so she invited me to go to the sealing, and I was like, of course I'll go. And so I was able to go see that.
That had to be really rewarding.
Oh, it was so rewarding. It was so, I was just, because me and my other, my companion who taught her with me was there too. And we were both just so excited. And we were just like, this is happening. Because everyone, you always hear the stories of like the full circle moments.
Right.
And we're like, this is our full circle moment. Like, we're so excited.
That's really fun. Mm-hmm. Really fun you got to go back there. So you're getting married Friday. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we need a little bit of background on who your fiance is.
Yeah.
And how you met him.
So we met on the mission, actually. We had served around each other for a little bit, and then we became pretty good friends from that. And then I came home before he did. And we would message each other all the time. And then when we got home, our schedules never worked out. And so we just never, like, talked to each other ever. And then I was in California, he was in Utah. And then we went up to school, and someone had messaged in, like, this return missionary group chat that we had. And they were like, we should all get together and watch the devotional together. And we're like, okay, let's do it. And then he showed up, and I was like, oh, hey, I forgot you were coming. Like, coming here. And so that, like, 3 weeks later, he messaged me on, like, a 3-day weekend, and he's like, I'm really bored. What are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing homework. And he's like, well, do you want to go watch a movie later? And I was like, sure. And one thing about him, he's very, very confident and very, very bold with his words. Because right after the date, he was like, I really, really like you. I would really like to go on more dates with you. What do you think? And I was like, whoa, buddy. I was like, this is a lot. And I was like, okay, give me a little bit, and I'll come back. And he's like, okay. And he let me take my time, and I was like, okay, let's go on more dates. And since then, and now here we are.
That's great. Mm-hmm. So tell me his name.
His name's Jackson.
Jackson.
Wait.
Mm-hmm. So you will be Alejandra Wait.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. What are some things about Jackson that draw you to him?
There's a lot. One of them is his willingness to learn and to want to understand other things. He's really big into, right now, is learning different religions and what they believe and why they believe those things. And I remember talking to him one time about it, and he's like, well, like, especially as a missionary, you wanted to know that so you can make those connections with people. And he's like, and it makes them more real. They have a more, like, you see them at face value, and you kind of understand what they're coming from. And so that was one thing that really draws me. The other thing is his knowledge and ability to teach the gospel. Because when he was Sunday school teacher when we were up in Rexburg, and so I went a couple of times to go sit in his class, and he just teaches so well, and he's, like, so excited to teach every time he teaches. And so it was so much fun to just see that. And his testimony of the temple is another thing that just just really, really draws me.
Okay. Does he do bridge jumping with you?
He's never been.
Okay.
So we're working on that.
We're working on that.
We're working on it. Our schedules were so busy in June and July. We're just like, we don't have time to do it.
It sounds like the other pieces, the other things that draw him to you, you to him, are really substantial. So fun things like bridge jumping will just be a bonus, right?
Yeah, it'd be so fun.
If that's the thing. So, okay. As you are getting ready to get married Friday, are you willing to share some of the feelings that you've experienced?
I'd love to. Right now it's nervous excitement because it's just nervous because there's such a big question mark for the future because I only have 2 more years of school and he has 3. And part of his major actually requires 2 internships, and some of them I'm not allowed to go with him, and sometimes we'll go both. Sometimes they'll let us both go, but that kind of makes me nervous, and I need to do an internship for my major, and so we just don't know anything about the future and what's going to happen, so that's more the nervous part, but I'm so excited to, take the next step forward, but yeah.
Okay, so nervous excitement.
Nervous excitement. I wouldn't really say scared because I feel pretty confident in my decision because I remember there's a talk by John, by the way, and he talks about how when he met his wife, that he just prayed the whole time, and he's like, I'm going to go for it. Stop me if I'm wrong. And he just kept going and kept dating, and then he's like, I'm going to marry her. Stop me if I'm wrong. Tell me when. And he never felt anything. He never felt like a confirmation like yes or no. And that was very similar to my experience when dating Jackson. I was like, okay, Heavenly Father, I really, really like this guy. What do I do? And nothing. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to walk forward until you tell me to stop walking forward. And just nothing. And I just felt like confident would be the word. And just like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm just keep walking. And so I just kept walking forward, and here we are.
And here we are, just a couple of days before.
Mm-hmm.
Will any of your siblings be in the temple with you?
My sister will be.
Your sister will be. Okay. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So, in getting ready to be married, what do you think has best prepared you for getting married in the temple?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I could pinpoint just one thing that's prepared me for it, because that was always a goal since I was little, was to be married in the temple, and that was been my standard. And my parents taught me that is your highest standard, and that is the standard you keep and hold to. And if you get anything less, that is not okay. Don't go for anything less than that. And so growing up, that's what I was taught. And then I think my mission helped me develop good habits of being consistent with my scripture study, be consistent with my praying, and doing the small little things to put me in line with Heavenly Father. And I think the biggest thing that helped was not focusing on what kind of person I wanted to marry, but on what person I wanted to be and how I would want, if I want my spouse to be a certain way, I need to make myself that certain way. And so I did that for me, and I focused on me and getting myself to be worthy to be in the temple. And that person walked into my life and was worthy.
What is something that your parents have done to be a good example to you as a married partnership?
They would always do scripture study with all of us, or they would always teach the gospel together. And they would, whenever they announce something to us, or we had a family council, and so anytime there was a decision made, it was both of them presenting that decision and always saying they were together in it. And so that was something that was really important to me, is that I wanted to be a united front with my spouse. into that, and that you're not always going to agree, and that's okay. You're not always going to agree. But when you do something, you should be united in it and moving forward.
I like that a lot. What are some hopes that you, and maybe you and Jackson together, maybe you've talked about it, but what are hopes that you have for the future?
A family would be my biggest one. We've talked about it a couple of times, but we do want a family. We want to do that. And we both wanted to have our kids well-knowledged in the world around them, but how to navigate the world around them while still living the gospel is something we've talked about a lot, especially in the April conference of this year. Someone had brought up, I can't remember the talk because I tried to look it up for this, but they talked about teaching your kids they're going to be in the world, but you have to navigate them. And so me and him had a conversation about how that looks and what we should do to do that.
That's nice. Are you going to continue the tradition of reading Harry Potter
Yes,
to your kids?
That will be a tradition. Jackson might not read it, but I will be reading my kids Harry Potter.
You'll read it out loud.
Yes.
I love that. That's really fun. What are you, like, in preparation for your wedding? You've had to choose a dress, flowers, colors, probably food at a reception. What are you most excited about?
Probably the food, honestly. I love tacos, and those are my most favorite thing ever. And so I asked for tacos for the wedding, and then the Spanish branch found out, and they're like, we want to help with it. And I was like, yes, help make tacos. And so now, it's going to be really good because the Spanish branch is helping.
Yeah, that's going to be delicious.
Yes.
That's really fun. Thank you so much for coming and taking some of your time this week in a really busy, exciting week of your life.
Of course.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In your big, happy future.
Thank you so much.